My name is Dr. Andrea Pennington. I'm an integrative physician, acupuncturist, and brand strategist. My career in broadcast and digital media spans over 20 years. As past medical director for Discovery Health Channel, I've had multiple appearances on Oprah, Dr. Oz, and CNN, and my TED Talks have reached 2.5 million people. I've published 13 books in the last few years, and now I work anywhere there's Wi-Fi. For the last several years, I've been helping other doctors, dentists, healers, and coaches from around the world to share their messages with global audiences through personal branding, publishing, online courses, and media training. And what makes this combination unique is that I am bringing my 20 years of expertise as a professional speaker and coaching other people on their TED-style talks. So I know what it takes to craft a keynote, a TED Talk, and even workshop presentations so that you communicate your message with confidence and clarity. Welcome, welcome. It is day 6 of our 6 days of deep dive training. Welcome, my dear friends. I am Dr. Andrea Pennington. How are you doing? How is your life on this lovely Thursday? If you are watching on the replay, Welcome. It's good to have you here. This has been quite a little marathon for me, I have to admit, especially with it being in the middle of confinement and working on multiple projects with multiple people. But I'm so grateful that you've been tuning in, and I've been so inspired by the feedback that I've gotten from many of you about how this has been helpful. So thank you. If you are just tuning in for the very first time, over these 6 days, we have been covering everything about, for example, Deep Dive 1 was all about defining your personal brand and your USP, what makes you unique. And then in Deep Dive 2, we covered nailing your niche, that is, defining your ideal customer or your target audience. And then in Deep Dive 3, we outlined your intellectual property. That's right, you, my friend, have brilliance in your brain, and it is valuable property. And that's what we covered in that deep dive. And oh, wait, yesterday was all about how to publish a book in 90 days or less. Sorry, I've got a little issue there with that slide. But here we are. We are here today to bring even more brilliance to the world by helping you craft an irresistible sales offer. Even if you hate sales, even if the thought makes you cringe, I am going to give you a simple step-by-step script that I actually use everywhere I go to enroll new clients, to sell my products and my services. So I am super excited to have you here. Thank you all for typing into the chat, letting me know where you are coming from. It's good to see some of my my returning students, and anyone who's new, welcome. I'm Dr. Andrea, and this is my gift to you for COVID-19. I'm giving away all of these little gems and secrets that are normally only given to my private mentoring clients, because so many people around the world right now are faced with a challenge of learning how to get online, how to sell your products virtually. And I feel bad. Like, I know how to do that. I've been doing it for years for myself and with my clients. And so the inspiration that was downloaded in meditation was to come on live and offer to you a peek into my academy and how I teach and train and support the other lightworkers and global luminaries. So welcome. It's good to have you here. And I'm so glad we've got Canada, we've got the US, we've got Paris, we've got Italia. Welcome. All right, so we don't have a whole lot of time, even though I know these have been taking quite a bit of time. But what I want to do is make sure that I'm delivering what I promised. So if it's okay with you, would you like me to go ahead and jump on in to the slides so that you can work right along with me? The worksheet, there's a link. I'm hearing sounds. There is a link for today's worksheet, either on the page on my academy or Facebook or YouTube. So if you follow along, then definitely have your pen and paper out if you're going to take notes like that. I don't want you switching screens. Turn off all the distractions, put the phone on silent, tell the kids you got to focus, because you are getting some free mentoring and training on how to bring your products to a greater audience. So thank you all again for being here. We are going to get this party started. So I'm going to share my slides with you. All right? So once again, welcome. This is Deep Dive number 6. We are going to craft your irresistible offer for your products and your services. So my goal today is to provide you with a very simple script to confidently enroll your clients or sell your products without feeling slimy, without feeling sleazy. Even if you hate sales, that's what I'm going to help you do. And I really believe that if I can show you how to communicate the value of your offer and create an expectation of the success a client will experience, then you can confidently make more money. You can serve your purpose by actually fulfilling your destiny, and you end up feeling fulfilled, knowing that you've created some value, you've left your mark on the planet, and you have been remunerated. In other words, you making some money. That way you can be valued for the beautiful work that you provide and the service that you provide. How does that sound? Yeah? Are we all in this to heal and empower our clients, coming from a heart-centered place of service? Type in the chat if anyone agrees. Give me a what if that's true. I know it is. I assume it is, but I'm just going to ask anyway. So here's key number one, my friends. Key number one. So write this on your worksheet. A sales offer is actually an invitation. Now, I know most people are thinking that a sales offer is like, gimme, gimme, gimme. And that's the problem. The biggest mistake that I see people have is that they're pushy. They're pushy salespeople. And that's why you don't want to do it, because it goes against your nature. You're not a pushy person. And the second biggest mistake that people make is that they focus on all of their products' features. And that's great, but it doesn't really connect with the needs and the desires of your potential client. Your client doesn't want a bunch of features. Your client wants transformation. The customer, the reader, your audience. And so this whole idea about gimme, 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 that doesn't feel good to you. It doesn't feel good to them. So recognizing this, key number one is really going to require a shift in your perspective on sales. First and foremost, I want you to see this as a shift from pushing features, and instead think of a sales offer as an invitation. You're inviting them to imagine or see themselves getting success through storytelling. So instead of pushing features, what do? You tell stories. And that way, it's not about this grabby, gimme, trying to get something. Instead, you're giving. You're giving them an experience or a hint at the experience. Now, one of the ways that this really came home for me was when I was in Copenhagen a few years ago. I was at this big event called Elevate. And they had this speaker on stage who has an amazing resume, has done all sorts of multi-millions in business and all this stuff. But the craziest thing was pretty much the entire presentation on stage was like a sales pitch. And it was pushy. It was aggressive. And there was even this sense that this person was making the audience feel bad if we didn't buy, if we didn't immediately see things from his perspective. And it was kind of obvious, because if you've ever been to certain parts of Scandinavia, that goes completely against the culture. And whether you're in, Scandinavia or not, nobody wants to feel like you're being pushed and prodded and made to feel dumb. And so the way that I look at sales is I'm really just offering an invitation to a different experience in life. And the way that this really got perfected for me was when I did a course with the late Judith Glaser. She's the author of a book called Conversational Intelligence. And she created a whole CIQ program. And this conversational intelligence is based on neuroscience. And that is how the human brain responds to communication. And so conversational intelligence, or CIQ, helps us adapt the way we communicate in a way that can bypass all of the bullshit detectors or those filters in our brain and land in the heart and maybe even the soul of your ideal client. So when I got to work with Judith in her coaching program, it really resonated for me, because I don't want to be pushy, and I know you don't either. I don't want to be turning people off. I want to be supporting and helping them. So I see that some of you have written in the chat, this has happened to you before and it was overwhelming. Yes, Crystal, I totally get that. And so that is why I'm asking you to shift your perspective. Don't think of sales as I'm trying to get something. No, I'm making an offer, an invitation. Now, the second key is make a commitment to serve and transform. Now, this too is going to require a shift in your perspective. Because here's the thing, the biggest challenge that I see with coaches and people who are developing products is they feel really small. They feel insignificant and they're kind of shy about asking for a sale. Now, sometimes that is about low self-worth. You don't even value yourself. And sometimes it's about having a bad relationship with money. Like, and the reason I'm putting transform in this key is because that means we also need to transform ourselves. I had this challenge myself. The whole idea of asking for money like threw me back to my childhood when I would like go to my dad and ask for something, or my mom, and I felt like I had to have all these, like, build my case up for why I needed it and why I deserved it and why the price was okay. So I had to do some work on myself to realize that there's a different way to look at asking. And so this shift that I'm asking you to do is shift from your ego, which is where I was. I was in this feeling small, feeling like I'm begging, and instead shift into, listen, I have created this product and service out of my commitment to serve and transform, to transform my ideal client. And yes, if necessary, I need to transform myself. So write on your worksheet that I'm asking you to shift from speaking from the ego into serving your mission of transformation. And there's this old marketing adage that says, if you know something, it is your moral obligation to serve. If you know that, you need to bring it forth. And I really believe that if you've gotten something that has been dropped into your consciousness, then that means that there's somebody out there who needs it. And I do believe that it's part of your soul work to bring it out. And so this was one of these challenging events that I was also at, this time in the United States. And I was sitting at this table about to give a keynote speech. And at this point, I mentioned this when I was talking about my time at Discovery Channel. I was representing the Discovery Health Channel. And that meant I needed to really kind of stay in my lane. And at that point in my career, I had already been doing a lot with Chinese medicine and helping people integrate their mind, body, soul, relationships, and environment. But at that event, they only kind of had me up there speaking about one aspect of health. And as I was sitting at this table before giving my speech, there was a woman saying that she was really, really suffering with emotional eating. She was binge eating. And it's just one of those things that I wasn't eavesdropping. I just kind of, when I heard it, it piqued my curiosity because I happened to run an intensive outpatient program for binge eating disorder. And the event organizer said, oh, you know what? I have the perfect person for you to tell. I'm going to tell you their name and their number. You call them and they're going to work with you. And I remember sitting there going, why didn't she recommend me? And it's because I had never told her. I'd never told people, outside of my consultation area. And so the challenge here is, if you don't let people know that you are committed to serving and transforming in the unique way that you do, that means they've got to go look for someone else. And in my case, I followed up with this event organizer because we became friends. She was actually in this docu-series that I ended up producing. And I called her up once and I said, listen, just so you know, in my wellness center, I treat eating disorders. We have a whole intensive outpatient program with acupuncture, psychotherapy, cognitive and behavioral therapy. We even have a spa. It's a holistic approach. And she said, oh, I wish I'd known that. There was a woman at that event in DC, and the person I sent her to, it was a disaster. And so this made me just feel so bad in my heart because I knew that based on what I was hearing, that I could help her in her transformation. And I was silent. And so that's what this shift in perspective has really made me realize. This is not about my ego. If I know something, then I need to bring it forth. And if you have a gift in you, a product, a service, a book, then it's up to you to stick with that commitment to serve others. And the way that I kind of tricked myself out of that feeling small and, all of that is I remembered my mother. Now, my mother and I worked together in that wellness center. And in that wellness center, we kind of tag teamed, basically. So my mom was always doing the psychotherapy. She was like the Oracle from the movie The Matrix. And so people would go to her, and it was almost as if she could solve all of their problems. And I had watched this for my entire life. And when I came to realize that I needed to embody more of that, I remembered my mother's commitment to serve. See, my mom lost her mother when she was 11 years old. So I never knew my maternal grandmother. She died of complications from type 2 diabetes. And my mother was devastated. And because she watched her mother suffer with all of these prolonged complications and being bedridden at home, it just saddened my mom to no end. And when her mom passed, she decided to become a nurse. Now, mind you, she grew up in the 30s and 40s in British Guyana, but she convinced her brothers, who were caretakers of the estate, to let her go to London to nursing school. And at first they were like, oh, you would have to see naked people. And she was determined. So she did go to nursing school in London. She became a nurse. And when she was doing her training, she found out that type 2 diabetes is not only manageable, it's preventable. You don't have to die the way she had seen her mother die from type 2 diabetes. And that impressed my mother with this mission. She said, I will never let a patient die of a preventable disease. And this was kind of like her crusade. And so when I was starting to feel like, okay, I don't want to talk. I feel like bad. I don't want to be pushy. I realized, no, I'm sitting on information that could actually help, right? So I see this, some of you in the chat saying, yeah, we're very much alike. And that's why I really want you to make this shift from the ego, from that part of you that is maybe a little bit of a scaredy cat, and recognize that this is really your commitment to serve, right? So if you're willing to take that on, this is going to really help you immensely. So shifting your perspective away from ego and into your soul's mission to transform. So it means you're also transforming yourself. And that's what this has done for me. And so key number 3 is to recognize that an offer is really creating an experience of value. Now this is going to require a shift in your perspective. Instead of this grabby, gimme thing, this is going to be how you kind of shift into, well, if I'm offering something that's going to give my client an experience that is valuable to them, then I definitely want to do that. Because the biggest mistake that I see people make is that they try to price their product based on time, like trading the time for dollars, right? We've heard that a million times. And that's the wrong way to go. Rather than pricing based on time, even the time it took you to create it, if you're talking about an online course or a group coaching program and it takes a certain number of hours, instead, shift your perspective and consider that you're making an offer based on value. What is the value of the outcome that you provide to people? And it's really important because people buy based on their emotions. Well, they decide based on their emotions and then they confirm it with the rational mind. And so as I was talking about that conversational intelligence course, the CIQ, what we understand from the neuroscience is that when we first hear things, we're first kind of getting a gut sense, a heart sense, an intuitive sense that's really tied to emotion, the way it lights up in our brain. It's the emotional centers. And so if you can create in the person's mind or body an experience based on value, like what are you going to get out of this product or this service, by highlighting the successful outcomes through storytelling. Again, it's not pushing it at them. You're just sharing a story. So I want you to remember that not doing this based on price is crucial, because cheaper, oftentimes in someone's mind, makes them think that it must not be as valuable as others. And you don't want to start competing in the marketplace based on price, because that's always gonna lead you to feeling frustrated. And I remember hearing a friend of mine who was at an event, and there was a speaker on stage that offered this training program. And this person came back to me and said, oh, hey, they're offering the same program as you, but it's less money. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, what are you thinking of doing? Well, this person decided to go with a cheaper offer. And 6 months later, I heard back that it was a complete shambles. It completely fell apart, and it didn't offer the same outcome, even though they promised it in their kind of title and their sales page and their sales presentation on stage. It didn't deliver. And so if we can communicate the value in a way that's important, competing on price is not where you want to go. Okay? So just to recap, key number 1, I want you to consider that sales is just a conversation. You're making an offer. It's an invitation. You're going to shift your perspective from being pushy or grabby or trying to get. And instead, now you're going to look at this from the perspective of inviting them to imagine or see themselves getting success. And as you've probably noticed from me, I believe storytelling is the best way. So we humans, we learn through stories. Our memories are based on collapsed images and feelings that create a story or a mind movie. And for some of you who will be doing public speaking, for example, there are many times that we are invited to speak, and there's a very bold statement that says you are not allowed to sell on stage. Now, this has happened to me many times because they want to make sure that only the headliner or only the owner of the program can sell from stage. And so it doesn't prevent me from going, and it doesn't prevent me from selling. The way I do it is exactly this. I recognize that if I can help the audience imagine or see themselves having a successful outcome through the stories that I tell, which are the case studies, for example, then I know that they can relate to it, and they'll very much likely come up and meet me, and they'll ask. And that's exactly what happened when I was at Expert Empires in London a couple of years ago. I was asked to headline with Gary Vaynerchuk and Ryan Deiss and Nick James, and there was a strict rule: you can't sell from stage, right? And so I just shared my experiences with building a brand. There I was specifically asked to give a presentation on how to go global and leverage the media. And it turns out that the beautiful Yvette Taylor was in the audience, and hearing my story about being an acupuncturist and having a wellness center and using certain words that I crafted in my stories about the success I provided, she came up to me. We started working together, and as you may have seen in my other deep dives, we helped her publish her first book, which shot to #1, and she got to hand a copy to one of her idols, the beautiful Bruce Lipton. And so all of that was just by sharing stories that with the language that my ideal customer would recognize and resonate with. And it worked like a dream. And we were even able to help Yvette start going internationally, which was on her vision board, she told me. So visions do come true. And I've also shared how when I was at this event called Elevate in Copenhagen, again, I was on stage, and just through sharing stories about what I was up to in the world, this beautiful person, Helena Philipson, she came up to me and we hit it off. One, because she also is an expert in helping people overcome emotional eating. We transformed her website from that to her real new brand, which is much more in alignment with who she really is. And all of this came about because I was not being pushy, but just sharing from the heart what I believed was possible. And it totally resonated with her, allowed her to, even though it was like this whole thing, like, do you think I can do this in English? You know, because she's Danish. How would she break out and do all of these things? Well, we made it happen. And it led her to co-hosting a radio show with me in the United States, and then hosting her own summits, and eventually getting on that TEDx stage. So isn't that cool? Isn't it awesome to see that sort of transformation? And can you see how step by step you could make these shifts as well in the way that you speak to people? So just to recap, key number 2 is we're going to shift our perspective and look at sales from the aspect of our soul. We're on a mission of transformation. We have this commitment to serve. And as I said, I had to kind of put my fear of judgment aside and really focused on my mission. And one day I was on Facebook Live, and I was just telling a story about how I experienced postpartum depression and what that was like, overcoming that and getting back into the groove of my life, and then returning to television after my maternity leave, and then moving to the south of France. And as I was on this Facebook Live, I gave a shout out because I saw this name pop up, and it was Dr. Jill Stocker. And I was like, oh, hey. And we ended up connecting later, and she told me that she was so surprised and impressed that I could talk about depression, because she, in her experience, would have thought that, oh, as a physician, if I tell anything about myself or what I've experienced, I might lose face, I might lose credibility. And that's actually not the case. When you're coming from your soul and you're sharing, not oversharing, remember, not oversharing, but sharing your truth, as long as you've healed to a sufficient point that you can do that, then you can share that in a way that inspires people. So it inspired Jill to get on board with us for our media success training, and then she's co-authored In Time to Rise and Life After Trauma, and also our most recent book. And she's also been really putting that whole shy thing to the side and sharing on Instagram and sharing on Facebook, and even getting her own show, and then participating in a documentary series with me. And so this idea of being able to shift from the ego is something that allows us to really get behind our mission to serve. Isn't that cool? Like, can you imagine like stepping up more as the hero that you're really here to be? All right, so key number 3, just to recap, make sure you've got this written into the spaces that I left you on the worksheet. Key number 3 is to shift your perspective and look at sales as a conversation where you're going to tell some successful stories of people you've served in the past, and you're really going to focus on value, the value that you can provide in somebody's life. How can you paint a picture of what the future would look like, what the value that would look like for your client if they read your book or bought your product or worked with you through coaching? And it works also for products as well. So when I was at another event in Spain, again, I was told, you can't really sell from stage, and I only had a few minutes. Normally I give keynotes, which are much longer. But I ended up sharing my my perspective on what it takes to go global. I was sharing the 5 stages of ascension that we went over in the first few deep dives. So definitely check that out. What I really had to do in my presentation was kind of paint a picture of what's possible and the kind of experience that someone could get if they worked with me. I shared examples of how I combine so many of my talents and tools to really deliver a valuable experience for my clients. So it's not just based on my time, it's about stacking up all of these other things. And so I showed the audience through storytelling how they could really be prepared for each of these 5 stages. So it wasn't just about a one-time experience. Working with me can help you be prepared for the future and set up for success. And one of the individuals that I met there is this beautiful woman, Gita Wintergraugard. And at the time, she was an author of children's books. She still is, but now she's much, much more. Because at the time, she said she really wanted to go from selling just 10,000 books in Denmark, which was pretty phenomenal, but she wanted to hit 100,000 in more countries. So based on what I shared on stage about how to go global, she tuned into that. She joined our media success program and helped her become a more visible brand because she was kind of hiding behind her books. So then she started to step out as the messenger and not just the author. She co-authored 2 books with me and another one with this beautiful woman named Chrysula. And then she started to appear on American radio and podcasts with me through my program. And then she became a guest expert on some online summits. And that was really awesome as well. And then she did our TED Talk preparation course. And she ended up on that TEDx stage with me and some other luminaries just last year. So isn't this cool? It's pretty cool stuff, right? All right, so what I'd like for you to do now is imagine that we're going to start working on yours. So what I want you to do is go to your worksheet. The worksheet has your client profile. Remember that? Download it if you haven't already. It should be there in the chat for you somewhere. Okay? So on your worksheet, what I've asked you to do is first and foremost, answer a question. What is your why? If we're really tuned into why we want to sell this product, why we want to work with clients in the way that we do, it can bring a whole new aspect to how we have sales conversations. So what is your why? What is the desired outcome that you want to have with these clients if they buy your book? All right, so have that in mind. All right, so now if you look at page 2 of your client, of the worksheet from this deep dive, there's an ideal client summary. We covered all of the elements of writing this kind of a profile. So if you have your Nail Your Niche worksheet from deep dive number 2, then you've probably already got this filled out if you were doing your homework and accepting your mission. I pray that you have. And so I'm going to walk you through this. If you were to kind of look at your own sheet, I'm going to get mine here, and you answer these questions. So you have in mind, what do I want to get out of this? I really want to help my ideal client. So then you review. All right, my ideal client is around 40 years old, female, and right now they really want to be successfully sharing their knowledge online and in the world in a powerful way. They want to have more clients. They want to have more freedom. My ideal client really wants to have more money, and they want to get rid of this trading time for dollars. They really want to be able to get rid of that kind of fear that comes up every month or every time a cycle of working with clients ends. Now, my ideal client currently has these problems. So in my case, most of the time they're overwhelmed by this idea of branding. They're overwhelmed by the number of social media profiles and platforms and where should they be, what should they do first. and they really want to get rid of the confusion. They are so overwhelmed with the confusion behind what to do first and what to do next and when to do it and how to do it. And for me, that makes me feel really frustrated, because when I connect with these heart-centered light workers, healers, coaches, I can feel your desire, your commitment to serve. And so it makes me feel so terrible, because I know the solution. I know that if you follow this 5-step path, if you get a really good mentor, you follow the success path, then you can succeed at building that business and that brand. And again, following along on your own client sheet, what have they tried in the past? Well, I know that my clients have tried to go it alone. They've bought expensive courses on the web, trying to learn all these different pieces and parts, from funnels and survey methods and summits and all of these, funnel things and all of that, freebies and makeovers. They've tried all of these things and they've spent thousands. What I know from my experience is my ideal client, the typical person that I work with, they have spent thousands trying to figure this out, and thousands of hours of time they've spent or wasted. And so then you want to think about, well, what blocks your ideal client from achieving their goals? Typically for me, what blocks my clients from getting results is, one, fear. They really fear putting themselves out there. And there's no real course out there for people to overcome that, at least for only a few more weeks, because I have one coming up. I've seen so many people get bogged down with this fear, this imposter syndrome, with that inner critic going off, like, who do you think you are? That we have a new course coming out called the Hero Course. All right, so the next thing on your client list is, from your perspective, what do they really need? And there's typically like 3 key things that if they had those, that would either put them all the way to their goal or significantly on the path to really having that successful outcome. And in my case, I recognized that what people needed was a framework. They needed a step-by-step plan. They needed a professional to give them feedback on whether or not it was working. And then they needed ongoing accountability so that they wouldn't fall off, because it's very easy to get some training and then you go and try it and then you kind of, they fall flat. And that's why I created the Personal Branding Bootcamp, which is a 10-day online bootcamp for building your brand and your platform and identifying your target audience. Based on my experience in the media, I know that if you go through these steps in the Branding Bootcamp, that you're going to have the clarity to be able to clearly communicate who you are and who you serve, and you'll be free of the overwhelm, because then you know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. So do you see how easy it is to start to put these things into language? So that's what I want you to do. You should have, hopefully, if you were here for Deep Dive 2, you will have already done it, but no problem. You have the worksheet. You keep this in mind. We always want to be keeping the needs, the feelings, the desires, the fears, and the blocks of our ideal client. Not from our perspective as the expert and the smarty pants know-it-all. No, we want to come from out of ego land into heart land and say, what do they really need and how can I provide that? Now at the bottom of this page of the worksheet, I'm asking you now to list the common objections. Now you're probably going to have many. Most people do. Most people have tons of objections. Like, okay, I can't do this because, online boot camps don't work for me. Watching videos, I never finish them. I procrastinate. The other reason that people might object to it is they just feel like, I just can't find the right words. So even though you've got these worksheets, I don't trust the words that are coming up, right? And then you just list those common objections that you hear over and over and over again, and list them in their words. Does this make sense? not seeing as many comments in the chat, so I know you're probably just really focused, which I love. I'm grateful for that. So that's what you want to do. You want to be able to come from that standpoint of what are they really experiencing that I really need to be clued into. Does that make sense? I'm going to check back in with the chat here. Is this making sense? Is anybody confused? All right. So the next thing that we want to focus on is how do, okay, good. Thank you, Audrey, for letting me know you're thinking. That's why you're quiet and you're focused. Okay. Scared that you won't fulfill action steps. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that, Lorraine. What exactly does that mean? Is that what your ideal client might be saying, that they won't be able to fulfill those steps? Okay, so you need more clarification on, I think some of you are saying, not sure, need more clarification. Do you mean specifically on the objections? Like, why would someone object to your program? If that's what you need, then tell me a little bit about it. I mean the objections that they would have to joining your program or buying your product. That's what I want you to think of. What would their objections be? If you, I mean, you know, you've heard them all. Sorry, I'm just going to silence this iPad. All right, does that make sense? Christiana, do you understand now as well? Hisla, you got it? Christiana, do you understand the objections? So depending on the product that you're offering, or maybe it's a book, someone could say, one of their objections would be like, oh, yeah, I've got 5 books on that. Yeah. Or, oh, I never read. I never read books. So, you know, I just buy them and they sit on the shelf. Right? Okay, good. So everyone is there, more or less. Okay, thank you. Good. So good to know. All right, so let's move on then. Now, if you remember in the other deep dive, and I asked you to really think about the transformation that you provide, I want you to go back to that. So hopefully you were able to at least outline a potential product. So what kind of transformation, if you go back to your RSVP worksheet, that's what we're talking about. You were asked in that exercise to take a client in their now state and get them to the then. That's the before and the after. What state are they in now? And what state will they be then after they've worked with you or read your book or consumed your product? I'm glad this is working for you, Shireen. I'm glad it's getting the juices flowing. So when I asked you to think about the transformation, I asked you to break it down into steps, because people need to know what are the milestones that I'm going to get to as I go through your program or as I'm reading the book. Now, it's a little different if you're just sending people a link to buy your book, for example, but on that sales page, you should be able to use language that says, I'm going to take this book or this product or this service will take you from where you are now and get you to a future using these steps. And these are the milestones you're going to see, the changes you're going to see in yourself or in your environment or whatever the product is. Make sense? So hopefully the book or the product that you have been outlining during this deep dive series is working in that manner, because people pay for transformation. They don't pay for steps. They don't pay for really your time unless they want hand-holding. People want transformation. All right? Now, if you go back to your worksheet, the next thing I'm asking you to do is to think of, based on that first key, that sales is all about making an invitation. And so what I want you to do is offer one big promise. So that is the big result that your program was on the last slide. And you think of it in terms of 3 keys or 3 secrets. Now, I will tell you that I am paraphrasing this wonderful book, Expert Secrets, by Russell Brunson. Maybe Sarah can pop it in the chat. And also .com Secrets. Russell Brunson is someone I consider to be a high integrity sales and marketing, dare I say, genius. He has researched and worked with the best and the best of marketers and copywriters and has really grown a successful multi-million-dollar company, ClickFunnels, and then empowered other entrepreneurs to make multiple six figures. And so the concept is that when you're making an invitation, you're making one big promise. And if you were going to go on, let's say, Facebook Live, or you were going to host a webinar, then what you would do is say, I'm going to make this one big promise, and there's going to be 3 key secrets that I'm going to reveal during this conversation. Make sense? Are you getting a sense of it? And those 3 keys are typically going to be tied to the 3 objections. In other words, you're giving them the keys to that big promise, but the stealth tactic here is that as you're presenting it, you're actually helping to overcome their objections. So it is just a practice of psychology. It's not slimy as long as you are coming from the heart, but you're basically just bypassing all of those objections that they would normally have. And so the objections could be related to your program or the style that you're delivering it in. For example, oh, no, I hate online coaching. I don't like Zoom. I don't want to be seen. That could be one of the objections someone would have. They object to the style of program. Or, oh, no, I don't like self-study. I never finish them, for example. The second type of objection that you can look at. Now, again, we did this in Deep Dive too, but if you're doing it for the first time, it's fine. There's typically an objection people have about their own ability to get results. So they might say, oh yeah, that looks like a really great book, group coaching, or membership thing, but I just have this thing. I'm dyslexic, or I'm shy, or I'm an HSP. Like they'll have some objection that's all about them, which may be real and true, but you want to anticipate that. And in one of your secrets to arriving at the big promise, you help them overcome that objection. And then the third type of objection is typically tied to external forces. So someone might say, oh, yeah, I know you say I could lose 10 pounds and get thin and lower my blood pressure, but every time I do that, my family gets on me and they give me heck for not eating all of their food, or they tell me that I'm getting too thin. So in other words, they're pointing outside of themselves. There's some outside force that would prevent them from enrolling in your course or buying your program or getting coached by you because there's some external force. And so ideally, if you've done your research as you were building the product or your service, you would know, how are you going to help people overcome the things that normally trip them up? If you build that into your presentation, whether you're giving this as a webinar or just in conversation, it can be really helpful. Does that make sense? So would you like me to give you an example from my own world so that you kind of see how that plays out in sort of semi-real life? Well, no, it'll actually be real life. Would that be helpful? Anyone? Have we lost the feed again? Okay, thank you, Christiana. All right, so I'm going to give you one example again. The first one, Raj, is typically it's a objection to the style of program. Russell in his book calls it the vehicle. What is this new vehicle, this new product, program, or offering that you think is going to deliver them to the promised land? So their first objection would be like, oh, some kind of self-love retreat. No, I can't do that because retreats scare me. I'm afraid of flying. Like they'll critique the program style or format. You could also look at it as a format. All right, so I'll give you an example. Thank you all for chiming in. Yes, please. All right, so I've already told you a little bit about my ideal client. It's typically female. Yes, I work with men, but it's typically female in their 40s-ish who've had significant experience in their domain, whether that they came from corporate and they've had really great experience and now they're transitioning into the entrepreneurial space, or they're healers, doctors, therapists, and dentists, and veterinarians who are now trying to shift into creating an online business. All right. And so one of the conversations that I have with people is my big promise is I'm going to show you how to create and launch a product in 90 days without losing your mind or hiring new staff. So when you're creating your promise, it's kind of a clever trick that many marketers use. The 3 keys or the 3 secrets to X, which is your big promise, your promised land, your outcome, without Y. So in my case, I'm going to tell you the 3 keys to test, create, and launch a product in 90 days without losing your mind or hiring new staff. And in my case, I would say key number 1, if you wanted to launch a product in 90 days, the first key is to work with a mentor, someone who's going to be able to show you the way. And I know this because my clients tell me they've tried these things before. Oh, I've tried this create a product in 90 days thing and it didn't work, or it was too time consuming, or it was expensive. Well, working with a mentor, in my experience, makes it faster and it actually increases the likelihood of success. So that's what I would be explaining and teaching. And then key number 2 is basically you need accountability and support in an environment that gives you sustained energy and motivation. And I recommend you do that in a group. That way you can leverage other people's knowledge and their energy and not give up. And so key number 3 for me would be don't try to reinvent this from scratch. Follow a success path. Does that make sense? So what I found people tell me is, oh my gosh, I watched this course and I watched this training and then I tried to put it all together and then I got on MailChimp and tried to hook up the emails with the freebie and the automation, and then I was going live and it was just a mess. Like they were so disjointed and all over the place. And I'm like, okay, honey, all you need is a success path where I can literally give you the scripts of how to write those emails to take away the confusion and the overwhelm. So in my case, I would say how to create and launch your brand or your product in 90 days or less without hiring staff or losing your mind. So that would be my offer. And as I'm describing it to you, are you getting a sense for, oh yeah, I could see what that experience would look like? Does that make sense to you? Are you getting a sense for that? And so as I'm sharing that with someone, I would be telling them, key number 1, work with a mentor. So everyone who says, oh, I already know that stuff. I tried, but I got stuck. It was all over my head. Now they know. Key number 2, for a successful launch, work with an accountability group. That way you won't lose your mojo. You can like tune into the energy of the other people, stay held accountable, especially if you're not good at being accountable to just yourself. And then for those people that say, oh, you know, there's cheaper programs out there. I could probably just figure it out on my own and for cheaper. Well, that is going to take a whole lot of time and it's going to overwhelm you. So key number 3 is really to follow a success path. Make sense, everyone? Does that make sense? Yes, I'm seeing that this makes sense. All right, so I'm going to go back to your questions. I love it when you have questions. And if you need more examples, then tell me what you're working on. Tell me who your target audience is, and then I can support you with direct feedback. All right, so Kati says, what do I say when the clients say, I trust the doctors, therefore I do chemotherapy to heal my cancer? Well, you can't fight with that. So what would be the shift? Now, remember, if you haven't, for anyone out there who's building a program that you haven't really got a bunch of clients yet for your testimonials or your stories, then I'm going to invite you to do a beta test. But for you, Kati, I know that you were your first success story. So what was it in you that inspired you to go outside of the traditional medical system? Right? What is it in you that you were able to open up your mind and go beyond just trusting doctors? It may turn out to be that those are just not your ideal client, unless you want to spend the time trying to convince them, which I don't recommend. I would recommend that as you're building your brand, as you're building your brand presence, you put out content just to show what's possible. And for many people, they will end up doing holistic therapies along with the chemotherapy. I had a client of mine, one of my VIPs, who flew me to America to help when she was diagnosed with a cancer. And she said, I want you there because I want to go the traditional route with chemo, but I want to be supported holistically. And so it's a mindset thing where some people are just going to be more open. So remember in the product creation deep dive, and I asked you to like kind of make stars by the aspects of the program and the kind of people you want to work with. Maybe for you, your ideal client is someone who's already open-minded or curious. And by putting out good content consistently, you might pique their curiosity. Again, it's based on you. Does it light you up to think of, I'm going to wake up in the morning and have to go convince people that there's an alternative to chemo? Does that inspire you? If it does, then do it. If not, then you might want to consider sticking with an ideal client who is already open-minded. And thank you, Ofkia. She says, my program is really worth it, and I showed you the right path. Well, you are a superstar, Ofkia. As everyone has learned, Ofkia Tekens is the lovely Jungian psychotherapist from the Netherlands who created those beautiful archetype cards that I showed. And I'm going to be interviewing Ofkia next week, so we will be sharing that with the world so that you can learn more about her system. All right, so is this making sense? So if you go back to your worksheet, on your worksheet, I've asked you to outline these things. After you've gone through potential 3 keys, and you might do that tonight so that you've got it worked out, you're going to come up with your potential titles. 3 secrets to living cancer-free, even if you're going to do the chemotherapy route as well. Or 3 keys to a better libido without, without porn. I don't know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be doing that on the spot. I should be responding to yours. You guys give me them. All right. So after you've been through this process of creating this invitation and figuring out exactly, how you're going to be able to describe it based on their needs, based on their objections, then what I want you to do is do something that we call creating a value stack. And so on the worksheet, I've asked you to list all the elements in your program or your product and the value of each of them. And you're literally going to share this with this potential client or on that website, okay, or in the web page. So let me show you how that looks. When you start to list all of the components of your program, along with the price or the value, here's what I mean. So in my case, I'm offering this 3-month group synergy coaching, right? And in this 3-month group synergy coaching that's going to help you launch your brand or product in 90 days, you get 3 private sessions with me, and the value is $1,500. You get 3 group training sessions with me, and the value there is $750. You get lifetime access to the 10-day personal branding bootcamp. The value is $197, and I know some of you have already joined. Woohoo! And you get 3 months of Q&A and follow-up. So even after you've launched it, if you're coming back and you need some follow-up, some tweaking, you get 3 months of that. And the value of that is $1,500. So do you see how you list the components and the value, and then you add it up? If you added up all of that value, that would be worth $3,947. But in my case, I suggest that you also add in some bonuses. So remember that we said what we're doing is we're having a conversation to give the ideal client an experience, an imagination of the value they would get out of working with you. How would they be transformed? How would their life be better? And how would their pain be taken away? So when you think about it, what are the bonuses you could add that are either going to help them get to the next level or make their reaching that goal even easier? So an example in my case is I threw in some bonuses. I know that writing emails, especially when you see, when we did the product launch thing, my system has 10 emails as part of the product launch. Well, I'm giving everyone who joins my group templates. So that way you just type in, change it, personalize it, and the value there is $1,200. I'll even give you the scripts for your products and your webinar offers. So just like you've seen here, it's like Mad Libs, if anyone remembers those Mad Libs where you just kind of fill in the blank. I even provide scripts for the people in my Synergy coaching. The value there is $800. I host a 2-day event here in the south of France that we broadcast via live stream called Stories with Soul, where I take you through the hero's journey so that you can map out the chapters of your life and create a life timeline and start to write your story. And that helps people when they're writing books. It also helps them if they want to tell stories about their clients using the hero's journey. Stories with Soul is happening here May 23rd and 24th. And this time, we're not doing it in person because of COVID-19. It will all be live streamed. So the value, normally that is $350, but the value for anyone who joins my program right now, it's listed at $250. And then I provide them with 3 months of additional feedback and follow-up. So when you look at the bonuses, the total value of the bonuses alone is $3,750. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to list all of the bonuses and the value, right? And then on the next page of your website or slide in your presentation, you recap. So what the 3-month group synergy coaching program includes: 3 private sessions with me valued at $1,500, 3 group training sessions valued at $750, the lifetime access to bootcamp at $197, 3 months of follow-up Q&A at $1,500, plus the bonuses, which have a value of $3,750. And now you would tell them that the total value is $7,697, but you don't want to freak them out. You say, don't worry, you're not actually going to pay that. And you come up with your price. Now, we talked about pricing in the deep dive where we talked about product creation. So go back to that to help figure out how you come up with your pricing. But what I decided to do based on this COVID and all of my healthcare providers and people in this community who are really challenged with right now, you've got to create something to continue making money or to replace the income that you lost because you lost your job. I am offering my 3-month group synergy program for $888. And that's exactly how I would do this. And actually, see if my offer was a presentation, then you probably wouldn't be able to show all of these slides with your stack, but you would want to know it because each of those elements could be woven into your talk, just like you've seen me do when I'm on stage. And so, in summary, we've got this 3-month group synergy coaching program where you can create and launch your brand or your product in 90 days or less without hiring staff and without losing your mind. So isn't that cool? Do you see how that's like Well, actually, let me ask you, how many of you felt like I was, just as I was sharing that, did anyone feel like I was being slimy and grabby and get pushy? Did anyone feel that way? Did anyone feel like I was all in it for me? Please let me know in the chat. You guys are silent. Did anyone feel like, wow, you could really see the value? So either say, yes, you see the value. No, you don't see the value. No, you didn't feel like it was slimy or sleazy or salesy. Thank you. And so that is this process. If you use that worksheet that I've given you, going back to your the deep dive that we did on knowing your niche, if you go back to the RSVP so that you're tuned into your own values, the success and the value that you create, then boom, you just put this in very conversational tone. And I've already shown you some of the examples from my own life at how this has worked for me and how I've helped my clients do it. So good. I'm glad you're saying that you see the value. Thank you. Raj says, it felt like I was answering your heart's worries. Okay, good. And thank you, Dr. Hisla. You see the value. Awesome. And thank you, Kati. You see the value in everything that I do. I love it. And Shelley asks, what if you don't know the value of your offering because you don't have enough success in the market yet? Then you, my friend, need to run a beta. It would be ideal for those of you, especially if confidence is an issue for you, if anyone is feeling like, I don't know if I feel like an imposter, I don't have any success, I've only worked on my friends, then I would say run a beta group. As I shared with you, the beautiful Delia Sanchez, who transitioned from being a pharmacist into offering her course. Her program, she ran a beta. And now she feels so much more confident. She's gotten people who've been through the program. They're giving her amazing testimonials. And so you can do it that way. Now, the second way that you can address the fact that you may not have success in the past with a real person to put a number on it is use yourself. What have you gotten out of the journey that you've been on? So in other words, remember on the worksheet when I asked you to do the customer profile and you tally up how much have they spent? And you know this, my dear friend Shelley, on your health journey, how much money did you spend on this treatment, that treatment, herbals, and so many different things, and the environment, like getting so many things in the environment to try to fix your health issues. So there is a very tangible value to, if that problem were gone, this would be saving you X thousands of dollars, for example, right? And you can do that based on each step. Where and when do you show the testimonials? I show them at each stage, at every stage. So just as I did with you, when I shared with you that key number 1 in reframing your thinking, do you remember that? I said key number 1, we're going to start to think of sales as an invitation. Instead of thinking of sales as pushy, grabby, or I'm begging, I'm asking you to consider it as an offer, an invitation. And then I told you the story about how I was in Denmark and this guy got on stage and was just saying, and you need this and you need that and you're not even, he was awful. It was just, it was the most terrible experience. And I felt bad because he was an American. And I'm like, he's making Americans look bad. Because literally at the break, someone said, oh my God, Americans and their sales tactics. And I was like, we're not all that way. We can just make offers. So in other words, when you're telling someone, hey, do you want to know the 3 keys to insert whatever your big promise is? So Tammy, what would be your first product offering, for example? If you can give me an example, I can make it very specific to you. But that's essentially what you would do. You would literally tell a story that is breaking down their objections and building up their belief in that key, and that way they buy in. And then you'd move on to key number 2. You tell them, okay, the second key to getting that result is this. And you relate to your own experience. Typically in the very beginning, just use your own experiences. Just as I did, I know you were there with us, Tammy, when I was talking about books. Like, I say that everyone has a book. Okay, it's one-on-one support for what, Tammy? Just remind me. I'm sorry, my brain is full. What exactly are you providing one-on-one support for? What is the outcome that you're trying to deliver? All of you need to get focused on this. From now on, every time someone asks you, oh, what do you do? Oh, what's your offer? Oh, what are you up to? Focus on speaking transformation. So go back to when we were looking at nailing your niche. Thank you for reminding me, Tammy. I know it would be nice if I remembered, but I want you to get in this habit as well. I offer one-on-one support for women who want to use the keto approach and fasting to get outcome Y. So you really got to talk about the outcome, because people are not buying a keto plan. They're buying what the keto plan will give them. And for those who've tried keto and failed, what they're getting from you is a whole new approach to working keto so that you don't fall off the wagon or whatever. But always focus on the transformation that you're providing. Okay? People don't buy the middle. Those features are not what they buy. They buy the transformation. And to give them the emotional experience, that's why we tell stories about how it changed our lives and how we've used it to change other people's lives. So you tell it in the middle of each step. You illustrate and highlight exactly how it works. Make sense? Is that making sense to you? So I'll give you another example if you want one. Let me think here. Let's see. What is my example here? All right, well, I told you that I could, in general, what is my promise? I promise that I can help you develop your brand and launch a product in 90 days or less without losing your mind or hiring staff. And I'm going to show you an example of someone that I did that for. Now, we worked for longer than 90 days, but the first 90 days were epic. And his name is Rob Goddard. And I know that some of you here have met him because he was at my Global Luminary Activation experience. So Rob Goddard is a lovely person who in 2010 went up to the 152nd floor of the Burj Khalifa, the world's highest tower, with the intention to jump and end his life. He had been battling suicidal depression. He'd been medicating with vodka, and he had basically given up on life. Well, he's still around. He ended up republishing, at my insistence, in less than 90 days, his book, Suicide to Success. And you can see it there. It's actually number 4. And so doing this program and teaching him the media tricks, he got on BBC Radio. And he's also in an upcoming documentary on the top 10 traits of resilience. So in that case, what I'm telling you is one of the secrets. See if I can get back here. One of the secrets to launching your brand is following the step-by-step process of putting out a book and then getting on TV. And then if you love that kind of stuff, getting into films. And so that's precisely what we did for Rob. So do you see how telling that story, I know I'm kind of jumping all over, but telling that story gives you a sense of, oh, there's this step-by-step process and you can do it that fast. Oh, that's the benefit of having a mentor with a success path. Does that make sense? All right, welcome, Jen. You're never late. You can always watch the replay. So Dr. Hisla says, I help burned out physicians get in touch with their creativity to find joy in their lives. Does that make clear the transformation? It does. It absolutely does. I don't know that I would lead with get in touch with their creativity, only because if you look at that worksheet, most physicians are not sitting there going, oh my gosh, I wish I was in touch with my creativity. We are thinking, oh, I really wish I had more joy in my life. We may not use the word joy. I don't know. Depends on the people you get into. But the in touch with creativity is more about your methodology, right? I mean, you could say, if I wanted to get in touch with my creativity, then I would be a different avatar. I would probably be a person who's either an artist already or a writer, and I'm feeling a creative block. So in other words, when we communicate with the words that they have and the pain that they have. So there you go. But it makes sense, because once you say burned out physicians, we're like, that's me. What do you help us do? Really? Creativity can lead to joy? It might at least pique our curiosity so that we lean in and ask, well, tell me a little bit more. And everyone out there, no matter what, you always want to at least make your promise and your offer exciting enough that someone at least wants to lean in and ask more, either because it's vague, but in a good way, or that they're just like, yeah, I want that. How do you do that? 3 steps? Or maybe it's not 3 steps. It could be 5 secrets. It could be 3 months. Whatever it is you see on the worksheet that I've given you the Mad Lib to figure it out, right? So Christiana asks, find out the secret of your soul. Or find out the secret hidden in your soul. Well, tell me about your target audience. Write in who they are, what they're suffering with, what's their pain, because it is a little vague unless you tell me who your target audience is. And so Audrey says, I offer mentoring to students who are disengaged and need support to connect with their true potential. So I mentor disengaged students, because right now your sentence is long. I would just make the disengaged modify students. I mentor disengaged students. I think the support is implied in the mentoring, so you could lose that. To connect with their true potential, just to hone it. Because if you said that and you were standing next to a parent going, I've got a disengaged student at home, what do? Oh, you help them connect to their true potential? Depending on who your target audience is. But if I were a parent, I would be thinking, oh, I know my child has potential, but they're so turned off because maybe the school system or that teacher, or they got bullied or teased or whatever. So you'd really want to make sure that it's for the target audience. But I think that's good. Connecting to true potential, I think, is a dream of all of us, whether you're young or you're a student or you're a parent or you are a teacher. So depending on who your target audience is. Heather, thank you for joining. You can find the worksheet in the chat, in the comments. On YouTube, it should be the pinned comment from Pennington Media. So just look in the comment section and you will find it. All right, so Shelley says, I'm challenged because the cost to each person will vary so greatly. For example, your 9-month VIP program will include one-on-one monthly coaching, okay, monthly group coaching with Facebook support, okay, lifetime access to an online training platform, and 3 months of follow-up with bonuses. I can't see all of it because I guess you can't put it all there. Oh, it was sent prematurely. They get discounted pharmaceutical grade supplements and a lifestyle modification assessment. All right, so then you're going to have to come up with some value on that. Now, what is the value of having your one-on-one coaching? Now, I know that I've told you all, you're not going to price it based on an hourly thing. You could start there if you wanted to. If you wanted to base it on an hour of your time, if someone really could buy that, it's probably a couple $100. But I know that in that one-on-one, there's going to be time spent doing emails, doing research, tailor-making their list of stuff. So you're going to want to add in those extra hours. Again, I don't recommend doing it based on hours, but if you had to try to come up with what is that value for 1 month of monthly coaching. You could start that way at pricing it. But what are they going to get out of it? So if you think about your ideal client, in 1 month, what can they achieve? What are they going to get rid of? Are they maybe going to get off of their medications? And I realize what you're saying, Shelley, is it varies so much from client to client. But you can start to get a range, and put a value on it that way. It may not be specific, but you can start to get a range. And the group coaching, again, if we're going back to the hourly, what is that hour of your time? If you have 10 people in that group, then you're dividing it by 10. Then you're also going to go to the side and think of, well, how many hours am I spending getting ready for that group? And for those of you that know this, you know that when you charge for hours of your time and you end up doing more hours on the outside, it builds up fatigue. It can very easily lend to being in more of a sacrifice mode, which leads to burnout and resentment. And we don't want that. So I don't recommend it. But if you do globally think of all the things that you are providing in your hourly thing, then you might be okay until you get some more experience. And that's fine. All right. And Heather says, in 6 months, you can transform a professional mom in a robotic, mundane existence to joy and fulfilled, healthy living. Yeah. Transform a professional mom. So she works outside the home. Is that what professional means to you, Heather? And then a robotic, mundane existence. It's a little wordy, but depending on your energy and the way you might deliver that, if you were speaking it, I could probably get behind it. Robotic, mundane existence. That's a winner right there. Because for anyone who's felt like, oh my God, I'm just a robot. All I do is cook and clean and do the dishes. I don't want any more of that. And I do want to feel more joyful and fulfilled. The healthy part, I guess if you're targeting people, moms that are not healthy, then that would make sense. So as long as that's part of your target market, if that's their problem, that they're not healthy, because in other words, you might just be living a robotic, mundane existence and you're just sad. So the idea of being able to get transformed to joy is the sell, versus am I both sad and sick, such that this joyful, fulfilled, and healthy living, is that my attractive outcome? So it's based on your target market. All right, so Alex, what's up, girlfriend? You say you help floundering leaders overcome momentum paralysis caused by a lack of identity, so that they can have the tools of clarity, self-confidence, and direction. I wouldn't call them tools. Nobody wants tools. They just want the clarity, the self-confidence, and the direction to pursue their unique callings using your 5-step program from identity to destiny. What? I love it, Alex. I love how this has morphed over these few days. You are rocking it. The only thing I would take out is tool. Just because it's not sexy. I don't want another tool. Floundering leaders. Momentum paralysis. Okay. It's wordy, but I know your personality and I know you could deliver it with a zing and it would probably land right where it needs to land. All right. Is this helping everyone? Are you guys getting benefit and value out of having all these different perspectives and me answering it? This is one of the reasons why I love to go live and help you live, because we can see this from so many different perspectives, and then it's going to train you to think how I think. So I hope that this is helping. So Shelley, you're saying that the costs are based on 1, the cost of disease management over the lifetime of a chronic illness, 2, lost wages and income. Now that's much easier to put a value on, because you can look up stats. You can look that up. You don't even have to base it on a specific person. You know X $1,000 per month are lost in wages and income, from lost wages and income. 3, absenteeism and missing work due to illness. And 4, intangible losses. Right. And so you will say those are kind of priceless. It's priceless to have relationship harmony. How much would you pay for that? Granted, you may not be able to put a value on those kinds of things, but all the other stuff you can. And then even if you can't put a dollar value on it, what you can say is, you can ask the question, what would it be worth to you to finally have harmony in your relationships, to finally have, the freedom to move again, to actually go out and get fresh air? What would it be worth for you? Well, when I was treating obesity, many times people didn't care about the money. There's trying to tell them that they were going to save money on meds and this, that, and the other. But the thing that really, really impressed a lot of the people I worked with is they knew that they were not having the type of quality of life. And so you could say, all right, this program costs $3,000. But if you could actually get up and dance at your child's wedding instead of sitting on the sidelines, wishing, wouldn't it be worth it? Of course you're going to get all of the other benefits as well. Like, even if that's all that it did, you're still going to get this and this and this and this and this, right? Make sense? All right, let's see what Kati has to say. All right, 3 keys. 1, would you like to overcome your fear? Qualify that. You need to tell us, what is the fear of? 2, would you like to get more empowered to listen to your intuition in order to find alternative healing methods that support exactly your healing process? That's too wordy. I would just say, cut to the chase. Do you want to find alternative healing methods that support your healing process? Nobody wants to buy intuition unless they're like a psychic and they're like, ooh, I want to get better at being psychic. People don't typically buy intuition. You're going to empower them. So I would just cut to the chase. Find alternative healing methods that support your healing process. 3, would you like to lower the side effects of all of your drugs and have more energy? I would just lead with that. I would make that your first webinar or article or freebie. I'm going to tell you the 3 keys to lowering the side effects of all of your cancer drugs so that you have more energy. Done. That would be your starting point, Kati, because then you can start to demonstrate value on something that's very tangible. Because intuition is not tangible. I can't measure, was I more intuitive today? I mean, I actually did this. I asked people to do this meditation called the attunement process, to continue to do it on a daily basis, and to keep a journal of how many times they had a gut instinct and they followed it and what the outcome was. I mean, it's like, nobody wants to do that. I still told them to do it. But if you told me, okay, I know I have nausea, vomiting, I'm up all night, I'm losing my hair, those are tangible things that a person could track. So if I say, I'm going to give you the keys to getting rid of those symptoms, I can track them. I can also track my energy level. You can ask them to write in a very quick little, either an app or a piece of paper. Rate your energy level this morning when you first wake up on a scale of 0 to 10. What's your energy level? And after they've been through your program, they can see that trend. Are they waking up with more energy? And in the evening or the middle of the day in the evening, how are they doing? I would start there, Kati, because you're at the beginning of really trying to grow this brand. Like, you have a very detailed program already, but it's so detailed. And for most cancer patients, I would think it'd be a little overwhelming to think, okay, I've already got to deal with what the traditional doctors are telling me, which is a whole thing. And now I'm going to get into this system. I would lead people step by step so that they get to know you. They get to see how you overcame cancer and have more energy. Then they get to try it on themselves. And then when they're ready for more, there's more and more and more. That's my personal recommendation. Hamaka says, helping married women live more productive and meaningful lives without feeling overwhelmed or burnout. Fabulous. So they want to be productive without feeling overwhelmed or burnout. And they want meaning. Okay, I could buy that. And so if you had, 3 secrets or 5, I would keep it to 3. Those would be your secrets. Awesome. Fabulous. Thank you, Heather. I'm glad that this is valuable to you. Dr. Rossi, one of your ideas. Your target audience is young adults who suffer from addiction of any kind. You want to provide them with guidance to refocus in their life and help them find the right path and their purpose in life. 6-month transformation. Awesome. It's very clear. So now you just need to come up with the kind of sexy title name. But obviously, people dealing with addiction, they're already going to be tuned in when you say the word addiction. So good. All right. So this is helpful. Very good. And yes, we have another burnout prevention specialist here. You help stressed out professional women prevent and overcome burnout. Very clear. Awesome. So you guys are rocking. We're getting so much clarity here. I love it. I love it. Any other questions that you have, please just put them into the chat. So now you've had a sense of what it's like to come up with sort of this headline or this offer. As you're talking to people, you're going to be just telling stories. You always start with yourself because in most situations, you have been your number one success story. You've been, and even if you've been doing it with family members, right? You know, if you're that go-to person, people are always coming to you for advice. Even if they weren't paying clients, you can still talk about the transformation that you were able to get them, right? So I'm so glad that this has been helpful for you. If you need me to recap anything, then please let me know. But I'm glad that you were able to kind of see how I created my own offer for this 3-month group synergy project. And I wasn't just doing this as an example, it's an actual program. So we're starting next week with some beautiful people from around the world. So if you are interested, you can see it's an incredibly valuable offer, right? I mean, you can see that all the training and the information that I provide can actually set you on the path. But typically, information alone isn't enough, you know? So that's why there's so many coaches here, because you need coaching, you need mentoring, you need accountability. And of course, the reason I see many of you are doing, adding follow-up and Q&A time is because, of course, on your journey, questions are going to come up and you're going to want answers fast. You're not going to want to go back to the internet trying to go down that rabbit hole. You don't want to waste time and money in searching. And so I find that you will save a lot more time and make faster progress if you have a follow-up and you're in a group. That gives you sort of the energy and the motivation to not give up. Because that was one of the most frustrating things for me. The reason I started to create my programs with groups involved is because people would start to give up on themselves. Like they'd get discouraged or something would happen, you know, not in relation to their professional work, but sometimes life happens. And sure, you may need to go off for a little while and deal with life. But I found that if people were left to their own devices, sometimes they would go into these like pity party, you know, downward spirals, and they would quit on themselves. And that really frustrated me. And that's why I'm like, okay, how can I build into my program everything that you need so that you don't give up on yourself? And that way we can go through this process together. Now, in my case, that means I only work with a smaller number of people because I give so much individual support, but that's the process. Is that making sense to you all? So we have some exciting upcoming programs that I want to let you know of. And many of the things I'm talking about are totally free. So don't worry. It's not like I'm asking you to like come out your pocket. But of course, if you want to work with me, you see the links, you absolutely can work with me. And I'd love to. You know, as it turns out, this 3-month intensive is perfect timing that we actually have the time right now. I have the time right now because normally it's all about my Global Luminary Academy. And so whether you're trying to become a speaker or you're trying to launch a new product or program or just crafting your brand messaging, then I really, really want to support you in that. Okay? And so one of the things that many of you have been saying is, The whole idea of marketing has been a little overwhelming, and I get that. If you would like some support, well, I should ask you, would you guys like some support? What I found is a few years ago, I was able to bring onto my team a beautiful woman named Sarah Kate Brandis. And she is the one who has been my right-hand woman, supporting me to bring all of the brilliance to the world. And some of you got to meet her here in France at our Global Luminary Activation Experience. We've also co-taught some webinars. She is the one that handles my social media and my email newsletters. And the beauty of working with Sarah is she's a great teacher and she makes everything simple. And so I'm hoping that Sarah will pop into the chat. We have this saying over at Make Your Mark, everybody needs a Sarah. And see, and there, Ofkia, she just said it, everybody needs a Sarah. But not everybody can get her, but fortunately, you can get her email marketing and training bundle, which has videos and templates and all of that. So after you've been through this deep dive with me, you've created that product or that coaching program or that book, and you want to figure out how am I going to do the marketing of it, she's got a bundle for you. And Sarah and I are going to go live. Sarah, remind me, is that next Wednesday? Wednesday, May 6th at 5 p.m. UK time. That's 6 o'clock for us here in France, 1800 hours, 12 noon for you guys in New York. So Sarah and I are going to go live and demystify some things. And then on the 13th, we are going to have Ofkia Takens, our Jungian psychotherapist, who's going to be helping you understand your archetypes. And in particular, the reason I really am trying to encourage you all to tune into the archetypes is I did a session with Ofkia in her home in the Netherlands. And even though I've been working with archetypes and I'm pretty successful in my life, doing this process with her, I was able to make a connection with an aspect of my personality that I was feeling was kind of weakened. And by tuning into the archetype and figuring out which archetype could support it, I had a major breakthrough that impacted my life and my business and the people I work with. So I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I bring more of Ofkia's brilliance to the world? So we're going to share that with you so that you can get a sense of it. All right, so let's see, what other questions have come in before we wrap it up? All right, Crystal says, this is your rough draft. Thank you for giving me the disclaimer. You help female entrepreneurs and self-employed women. I guess, are you trying to say that not all self-employed women are considered entrepreneurs? But okay. You help self-employed women evolve their information-packed presentations and uneventful speeches into a cohesive experience that celebrates their persona. That's a lot of words, but I'm getting it. And they offer 3 keys to overcoming overwhelm of presentation delivery without wasting any more time and money. I might also say without hint at that statement you were telling me before, Crystal, about how they end up not landing that client or the pitch goes flat and they don't get the investment money or whatever money they were trying to get out of it. You might also bring that in. But yes, you're getting there. The first part is very, very wordy. But again, if you go back to the lesson in the boot camp where we say, you know how, I would shorten it down. But everything you've got there is perfect. I know we've been evolving and evolving this, so you're there. You're getting there. Awesome. So wonderful. Thank you, Sarah Kate, for supporting this audience. Bless you. You can get Sarah's help building your own email list and writing fabulous emails that work for your business. Just look at that code. She's giving it to you for 60% off. Dude, pop that over to YouTube so that they can get that too, please, Sarah. That would be awesome. Fabulous. And yes, Tammy, we will email you about all of the upcoming workshops. And Raj, the archetype webinar is May 13th, if I remember correctly. Excellent. the time, yes, and the links to join us. And Shelley, 10K is the actual value. Well, what would you reduce it to? So if you remember that value stack slide of mine, I'm going to show it to you again. There's a bit of logic to this. Most people say that when you're building out your value, along with the bonuses, a rule of thumb, and again, it's just a rule of thumb, you don't have to take it as gospel, it wasn't written in the Bible, but a rule of thumb is the total value of your product should be 10 times what you're charging. So that this is just the total value of the group synergy coaching program, where you get to work with me privately and in a group, lifetime access to the boot camp, 3 months of Q&A. And then when we throw in the bonuses, there's email newsletter templates. There's scripts that help you write your offers, Stories with Soul, the life writing workshop based on the hero's journey, and the follow-up. And so that comes up to $37.50. And when you add all of it together, the total value is over $7,000. So most people say what you're offering, that your actual price, the total value should be 10 times what you're offering. So I'm not quite there, but $888 is what I'm offering you if you want to join this 3-month group synergy program. So if the total value is 10 grand for you, Shelley, I don't know that I would drop it down to just $1,000, because yours is 6 months. Is that right? I don't remember if you said that was 6 months. Yeah. Okay. So hopefully that is helpful to you. The publishing company, yes, I will tell you a little bit more about Make Your Mark Global while we have some time here. Make Your Mark Global is a boutique publishing agency. I mentioned this yesterday, that it really just started because I went through the traditional publishing route when I got my first book. And when you do that, when you go with a big publisher, you're handing over this manuscript and they have control. Still your copyright, but they have control. They're in the big systems, and I was with Penguin, so they took over control. When I got the edits back, I'm like, this has kind of been watered down, and I was already not fully in my stuff. So when I decided to come out with the Orgasm Prescription for Women, I decided I wanted to take control of that process because it was such a sensitive book, female sexuality. So I published the book, and then a very dear friend of mine had a big challenge where she had paid several $1,000s to a company to publish her book, and they completely had bad energy and screwed it up. So she asked me if I could help her. And so I did. And then pretty soon other people in the Transformational Leader Network were like, well, can you do this one? Can you do mine? Can you do mine? And that was how Make Your Mark Global was born. But what we are is we're really a hybrid. So it's kind of a hybrid between self-publishing, where in self-publishing you have full control over the edits and the colors and the fonts and how it comes out to the world. And traditional publishing, the only thing that they really do really well right now is if you're a big enough name and you can get a traditional deal, then they can probably get you into bookstores, even though bookstores are dying, I know. But they take 80% of your royalties and they control the process. So at Make Your Mark Global, we give you 80% of your royalties and we just assist you in the process. So we have a full team. You send in a manuscript and it gets professionally edited, a complete line edit. Then it's sent to a proofreader to make sure that the grammar and the punctuation is correct. And you get it back at every stage. Because if you felt like the editor was too heavy-handed or didn't get your meaning, then you guys can correspond back and forth. And once it's been edited and you're happy with it, and it's gone to a proofreader just for final checks, you still get to look at it again. Then it goes into formatting. And so we format for Kindle and we format for print books and for hardcover. We also have a beautiful design team. As you've seen many of our books, not this one, we did this one for dairy, but we used a different designer on Life's Great Adventure. But all of the books that you've seen of mine, from Life After Trauma, Time to Rise, Turning Points, Yvette Taylor's book, Helen Rebello's book. Anyway, I don't know, we've published 20-something books in the last couple of years. We use a design team in Sarajevo, and they're wonderful because you can give us the initial instruction, the colors, the vibe, the font, what are you really looking for, and they'll create it. We have a dentist named Leslie van Oostenbrugge, who goes by the Awakening Dentist. And in her own awakening, she really got tuned into the law of attraction. And in doing that, she found that, I'm going to try to find her book for you. She found that she was reawakening her creativity. And she had already been doing a lot in her dental practice, like helping other people design their dental office to be less offensive, and to be more welcoming. And she's got a real eye for this kind of stuff. And so it's really cool because we were able to help her with her book when she decided to come out. And I'm trying to find it. I can't find it. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Don't give up, Andrea. Don't give up. This is her book. Emotional Alignment is Easy. And in her case, she and her brother actually had this concept. They wanted the little tooth. Can you see that tooth in the butterfly? Let me try to point in the right direction. It's all backwards. Anyway, can you see the tooth in the butterfly? Like they had come up with the concept that they wanted, and then we sent it on to our design team to spiff it up and make it beautiful. And so Leslie van Oostenbrugge, The Awakening Dentist, her book, Emotional Alignment is Easy, is one that we published. So we send out the cover, in other words, and then once it's formatted and you're happy with the way it looks, of course you review it along that process, then we put it into distribution. And distribution takes two forms. I mentioned this yesterday. For those of you that need to go, it's okay. I thank you for being here. I'll answer any other questions you want to pop in the chat. We do distribution through Amazon so that you can get it worldwide. We will also do Apple Books if you want. And we do Ingram. Ingram is the catalog that supplies book retailers all around the world. So, for example, in Holland, we've worked to make sure that the Dutch bookstores and online book retailers can get those books by accessing the Ingram catalog. So you can do all of that yourself. You could go and create your own account with Amazon and create an account as a publisher with Ingram Spark and try to go through the whole process yourself. And it's very doable. But we've worked it out such that we have people who are experts so that you save time and money, and we handle all of the accounting and the payouts and all of that. And every book that we publish, we handle your initial launch. So I do an interview with all of my authors. That interview then ends up at Thrive Global, which is Ariana Huffington's blog. So I'm a featured contributor there. And the video and podcasts end up sprinkled all over the world. So we make it's very simple. It's very turnkey. And you get to maintain your rights and your control and the money, which is a beautiful thing. So wonderful. So I'm so grateful that you all have been with me for this journey. This has been kind of a challenge for me because some of the days I've been working, Sarah hasn't been on. So I've been like trying to work it all out. Thank you for your patience, all of you, with Restream kind of dropping out every now and then. And yeah, thank you. It has been an honor to be able to hear what you're up to and to provide at least my perspective on how you can bring your products and your brand to the world. I've been so touched to see all of this beautiful feedback from you and to know that I'm fulfilling my purpose in life by sharing these things. And so I would love it if for any of you who would like to work with me, you can do it very easily by joining the Personal Branding Bootcamp. As you know, I'm offering it for just $44. Normally, it's $197. And right now, because of COVID, I'm offering it for $44. And with the Personal Branding Bootcamp, you get lifetime access. So lifetime access to everything that's in that bootcamp, which includes the online videos and worksheets. And I see that many of you have been really appreciating all of these worksheets that give you step by step by step. We also, when we do a kickstart, we do 3 live Q&As in a 10-day period. And then I keep that up with you every month in a monthly Q&A. And that follow-up is just priceless. So I have people who come through and they work and they work, they get the first part of their brand up, and then 3 months later, they're like, ooh, now I'm ready for the next part. You come back into the bootcamp Q&A, totally, you don't have to pay again. So that is my gift to you all. And with all of the online modules, you'll be able to define your brand identity, really hone in and identify your target audience. You'll be able to create your unique brand style so that you can communicate that to a web designer or a graphics person. Then you compose your brand position statements. Much of what we've been doing today, if you had your brand encyclopedia already done, you'd already know these good phrases and words to use. And that's what this bootcamp can help you do. And it will also, in the bootcamp, it'll help you to outline your website so that you can know exactly how to create it for engagement and getting people to buy into your free offer, meaning give up their email address. So that's what the Personal Branding Bootcamp is. And for some reason, that's just repeating. I guess to reiterate it one more time. Oh, wonderful. And then private mentoring is available, but it's by application only. And I see that Sarah has popped into the Facebook chat. If you'll pop it into YouTube as well. If you're thinking of joining the Global Luminary Academy, which is normally 12 months, I am offering a 3-month intensive based on COVID, but that's not going to be forever. And that's all to help you get through these 5 stages of ascension. These are the 5 stages that you will go through as you decide to become a global luminary or just getting your products out to the marketplace. So those are some of the ways that we can work together, in addition to the other one that I showed you in this workshop, the 3-month group synergy program, which starts next week. I'd love to work with you. We've got some doctors and nurses. I think we have a creator because I tend to attract creatives as well. My high sensory, creative, empathic types really resonate with me and the way that I teach. Wow, can you believe it, guys? 6 days straight. So all of the videos will be up there so that you can come back to them on our website, all of the worksheets and the slides. So I share the slides, but only for the people who are registered. I don't want them just out on Facebook and YouTube. But at least the worksheets, you've got those, and you can get some of the slides from my presentations. And you can keep doing this work over and over. I pray that it has not been overwhelming. I have been accused of that in the past. It's like, okay, you're giving too much. It's overwhelming. Please forgive me for that. Just know that you can digest this stuff later, and you can always work with me, especially in the boot camp. There's no limit there. We won't have it for $44 forever, but at least I will always be offering my support in the boot camp. And if you want to work with me personally, well, hopefully I've communicated the value, right? That was the intention for today. If this has been valuable to you, if you're now seeing how creating a conversation around your offer doesn't have to be scary, you don't have to be in slimy mode, you actually can just give from your heart based on your commitment to serve and transform. If that's been helpful for you, I'd love it if you put it in words. The group 3-month group synergy program, Dr. Fernando, what I'm doing first is I'm meeting with you all one-on-one. I've already met with a couple of people who joined early. They're like, I want in. And then based on that, the following week, which is next week, I guess, yeah, we'll assign you to groups because we have some people who are in the United States. I know that you're in California. We've got people in Norway, I think in Iceland, here in Western Europe. So we have people all over. And I want to group you by interest level, maybe by time zone as well, so that you're in a group where you can really have that synergy. So don't delay, because then you might not be in the kind of early bird situation that you'd want to be. All right. So thank you all. Raj, you would want to decide on the synergy within the next 5 days so that I can get you into the private sessions before we start our groups. Well, you are welcome, Kati. I'm so happy to know that this has been useful for you and not too overwhelming. I know it's a lot, but it is really, really been a gift. It has been so fun and surprising to see that you guys have stayed with me for 2 hours. You know, we've had up to 50 people on, and you guys have been like rocking. Now I know it's COVID-19. You happen to be at home and you have the time. Normally, I've been challenged to get my live. This doesn't count. This is a training, but normally I go live on Facebook and sometimes YouTube. And, 45 minutes is kind of my sweet spot. I've been getting better at getting down to 30 or 20 minutes. But it's usually not a training. I'm usually just ranting or sharing from the heart. So I'm so just inspired that you all have made it through all of this time. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for all of the beautiful sharing and sharing this with other people. And oh, Maka, you're a dear. That is such a gift. I'm so glad that you're going to write that book. And if I'm on the dedication page, I will be touched. But just knowing that you got it out, I know that will be, proof enough that I have had an impact. All right. So my friends, thank you. I'm sending all kinds of hearts and love and joy and peace to you. May the end of this confinement with COVID, with this pandemic, may it be a peaceful end to you. I pray that as you continue to do meditation, as you continue to tune in to your soul and your purpose going forward, I pray that you are able to move forward with inspired action. My whole goal with this 6-day series was not to overwhelm you with just stuff that you couldn't take action on. I really wanted to make it so that you could leave the quarantine with a plan, with a focus, and quite possibly with a new mentor by your side. So thank you all. It has been a gift, and I guess some of you I will see next week as Sarah and I go into email marketing and how you can set that up. And then the following week, we've got Ufkia Takens, who will be taking us into Jungian archetypes. And then, you remember that slide I showed you? I'll just give you a hint. For those of you who are in a business where you would like to seek funding, as in getting investment dollars, Rob Goddard, who came through our Global Luminary Academy, after his suicide failed attempt, he ended up creating a multi-million-pound business, both in the UK, and then later he went back to Dubai and created another company there. His specialty has always been mergers and acquisitions, and he gets pitched constantly on how for investments, because he's an investor. And he has put together a presentation on what to do to prepare to pitch. And so he has agreed, I just spoke to him yesterday, he's agreed to offer that presentation to our audience. So if you are someone, as we talked about, who might be afraid to ask for money, you don't know what to put in a pitch, if you were going to go out for investment dollars, Rob Goddard is definitely someone you would want to practice with. And so I will give you, if you're on the email list, you'll get an email from us when that date is available. And it'll be about the same time. This is always kind of, unfortunately, it doesn't really satisfy my friends in New Zealand as much, but doing it at this time, I'm able to get the people in California and New York and the people here in Europe. So wonderful. All right, I'm really going to go away now. Thank you, my dear friends. I will see you next week. And please remember, you are a gift to the world. So share your presence with passion. Much love, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been wonderful to serve.